The danger of isolation. In the face of the great waves of change, it is important that you are not isolated and that other people know who you are and where you are. People who can assist you, people whose wisdom you can rely upon, people who can support you in times of need. This network of relationships, to whatever extent it can be established or is established already, is vitally important. It is unwise to live far away from the cities where provisions can be provided and where you can gain access to the very fundamental things that you will need. If you are far away from the cities and are not closely engaged with your neighbors, you will be isolated and on your own. Do not think here that if you live in a rural area that you can stockpile food and medicine. For how long will that last you? And what will prevent people coming to steal it from you, coming in the night, coming in the day? Your retreat has now become an isolation, a hazardous isolation. In the future, people will be abandoning their homes in a distant country, seeking food, energy, shelter, and security. It will not be safe living alone in outlying districts, as there will be much crime and thievery. This will be due to the fact that there will be many people at work, desperately seeking for anything that I can use or sell. For someone living alone in the country, they will be very vulnerable, and law enforcement will not be sufficient to protect them, for the needs of rural communities will be so immense that law enforcement will be overwhelmed. Rural living will become very hazardous unless you have established a high degree of self sufficiency, but that is very difficult to achieve and can only be prolonged for a certain period of time. What you previously sought as a reprieve, as a retreat, now becomes a hazard. When fuel supplies become extremely low and there are shortages, how will you function? Even your nearest towns may not have food, petroleum, and medicine, for these things will be focused in large cities where large congregations of people live. Outlying districts will have difficulty acquiring even the most fundamental things. In the future, people will flock to the cities for food, for energy, for medicine, and for security. Great congregations of people will come from outlying districts where supplies will fall short. You do not want to be at the bottom of the list, living in a town or a village. It could take weeks or months for supplies to reach you. Medicines will be difficult to acquire, particularly if you are living in outlying or rural regions. It will not be as it is today, where you can simply order things electronically and they will be delivered. Such deliveries may not be possible in the future. What are you going to do if you require these medications? Isolation here, even within a large city, is very hazardous. And this is particularly true for single mothers. It is particularly true for the elderly. It is particularly true for children and for people who have handicaps and are disabled. How would they know what to do when there are shortages of food, or shortages of water, or shortages of petroleum, or when they are unable to heat their homes or their apartments? For all these circumstances will arise within the great waves of change, even in the wealthy nations. You are living in a world of decline. The availability of fuel, the availability of electricity, the availability of food, and in some places water, will become ever greater problems as your environment is unable to provide for the overarching demands of people and the way that they live. Here, you cannot rely upon governments or political parties or technological innovations, for these alone will not be sufficient to protect the people from the great impacts of the great waves of change. Because the climate will be changing, there will be a tremendous loss of food productivity in the world. And because fuel supplies will become more expensive and difficult to get, it will be harder for large farms to produce enough food. Food will be a major emphasis, as it is already in the poorer nations. But even in the wealthy nations, food will be a major priority, not simply the price of food, but the availability of food. That is why you maintain a provision to last you at least a month, so you have time to consider what you must do next, and not simply be thrown into panic or desperation. The world is changing. Your situation is changing and will change even more. Everything has to be reconsidered in the face of the great waves of change. That is why your preparation for the great waves must begin far in advance of extreme or difficult situations. If you wait, if you hold yourself back from your preparation, if you wait until there is agreement and consensus, then you will have very few options. You will have very few options and very few choices. That is why it is so important to educate your friends, family, and neighbors about the great waves of change, to collaborate with them, and to create a plan of assistance, to have contingency plans in case certain things transpire, to have homes where you can gather, to build a reserve of resources so that you are not immediately in danger, and to bond together if necessary and provide assistance and support for one another. Community preparedness is very important. It is very significant, but to change one's circumstances takes time and takes effort and courage, and is often quite difficult to do, particularly if you are in a family where others do not agree with you. Time is of the essence then. You need this time to consider where you live, how you can get about, where you will be able to provision yourself, where those provisions might be, and to build a network of support with your friends, family, and neighbors who are living in your proximity. You must think of these things now, not emotionally, but reasonably, considering your advantages and disadvantages based upon where you live, and how you travel about. What assets do you have? What are your liabilities? What is the strength of your position? Do you need to change your living circumstances radically in the face of the great waves of change? If so, you will need to do this fairly quickly, because these things take time, and time is what you do not have a lot of. The wise are always considering what is coming over the horizon. They are always looking and watching. They are not afraid and not terrified, but cautious. For all the people who are sensing great change in the world, it is important to look at what that change might be and how you will need to prepare yourself for it, given whatever resources that you have. If you can begin to prepare, you will gain confidence. If you do nothing, you will lose heart. You will be defeated before the trials have even appeared, before the difficulties have even really reached you. Here, you must be prepared. There will be utter panic, chaos, and desperation around you, as people now caught off guard have to face a really difficult situation for which they have not prepared, a situation that is now undermining the whole life and reality. What would it take to produce such a powerful impact? a fuel shortage in your nation, your state, or your region. That alone would do it. A violent weather event, a hurricane, a tornado, or extreme drought. As the planet heats, and all of a sudden, there's not enough water for both human beings and for agriculture. It would take so very little to throw your life into jeopardy. Do not think that because the nation you live in is large and highly populated, and that there is wealth and technology, that it cannot fail in the face of the great waves of change, and that society itself cannot be undone at the very core. Even as food becomes more expensive and in places unavailable, it is going to put your economic stability over the edge. And this is happening already. Think now, what would happen if this price increase did not stop? If you live in a desert region, you may have to leave, as there may be no water for you in the future, and it may be very difficult for food to reach your community. Do not live near moving water, near rivers that will overflow in the face of violent weather and changing climate conditions. It is wise to move away from coastal regions that will be affected by violent weather, and in many cases from certain large cities that will be subject to extreme social unrest. Do not worry about trying to change the awareness of everyone. It is your awareness that must change. It is you who must reach out to whoever is in your proximity that can support and assist you in your efforts. People have talents, they have wisdom, they have skills. These will all have to be brought together for the welfare of everyone involved. Even if you cannot get your town or city to develop a preparation plan, you can still reach out to certain people and establish a network with them. The situation calls for you to become powerful, for you to become engaged with others, for you to escape your own hellish isolation, for you to take action, for you to realize your strength, to utilize your skills, and to utilize the skills of other people, knowing that alone you cannot prepare adequately for the great change that is coming now. Knowledge within you, the greater intelligence that God has given you, will give you direction and will give you signs and will provide steps for you to take. You take these steps without fully understanding the whole process or the outcome. You simply take the steps. Knowledge will speak to you through your thoughts, through your feelings, but it will not speak through fear. It will not speak through fantasy, and it will not speak to your preferences. You must be open, asking knowledge within yourself. What must I do now? What is the next step for me? How shall I regard this particular situation? What decision should I make regarding this particular thing? You must stay with this. You have to get past fear and rejection, shock and awe, to get into a place of greater clarity and objectivity, so that you can respond to knowledge, feel knowledge, hear knowledge, and see the signs that knowledge is giving you. Do not worry that others are not doing this. Do not worry that the general population seems asleep and falsely self-assured. You yourself must prepare. Against all odds, you must prepare. Against the discouragement you will see in observing others, you must still prepare. You prepare because you must. You cannot solve this problem for the world. You cannot solve this problem for the nation. You first must build your ark, and you must build the ark before the rains come, before the great change is upon you. You must help others build arks, and you must join your ark with theirs so that you have relationship and community. Your strength is in knowledge, relationship, and community. All three of these now become primary. You must function on only partial awareness and partial certainty. You will not know everything that needs to be done. No one knows that. You will have to choose carefully who you listen to, for some people will give you very bad advice. Even people who are aware of the great waves of change can give you very bad advice as to what you must do. You must be patient. You must be observant. If you are frightened and panicked, you will do extreme and unwise things. You have to face great danger with courage and with as much objectivity as you can master. You have a preparation to make. You have a pathway to follow. You were always meant to have this preparation, this journey, and this pathway. Now is the time that you must begin and proceed. You cannot control the outcome of the world, but you can build greater stability for yourself and for other people. And this is important. This is within the realm of your responsibility and capability. And this is what you must do now.